Hi, my name is Ken Davidian, and welcome to Season 2 of Organization Theory in Space. In this season, I'm making one video for each chapter in the Oxford Handbook of Organizational Change and Innovation, second edition, edited by Marshall Scott Poole and Andy Van de Ven. This video covers Chapter 16 of the handbook, entitled Discontinuous Change in Organizations and Fields. In this video, we'll discuss the classification of change in organizations and fields and the mechanisms that cause those changes. We'll then talk about mechanisms that occur at the field level, the organization level, and across levels. We'll next briefly discuss some reasons why research has tended to neglect field-level discontinuous change, and we'll wrap it up by presenting the author's recommendations for future research. In the late 1980s, the authors proposed a 2x2 matrix to categorize theories of change based on two parameters. The first parameter was the order of change. First-order change is akin to continuous change, and second-order change is akin to disruptive change. The second parameter was the level of analysis, ranging from the organizational level to the field level. Based on these classifications, four models of change were identified. The first representing first-order change at the organization level, that was called adaptation. The change mechanisms of adaptation include strategic choice and actions based on resource dependence. The second model, resulting from first-order change at the field level of analysis, is called evolution. Natural selection and institutional isomorphism are the two social mechanisms that result from this type of change at this level. The model of change for discontinuous change at the organizational level is called metamorphosis, and it results in change following life cycles and strategic reorientations. Finally, discontinuous change at the field level is referred to as revolution, and it results in mechanisms of quantum speciation, the creation of new organizational forms, and environmental partitioning. Interestingly enough, this classification was developed independently of and at the same time as the Van de Ven and Poole typology of four change motors. Because these two typologies evolved from two separate literature backgrounds and parallel each other to a significant degree, this lends credence in validity and utility to both. At the field level, four change mechanisms were identified in the literature review. The first is shifts and hybridization of institutional logics. Instead of the traditional approach where an existing institutional logic is replaced by a new one, neo-institutionalists assert that multiple logics can coexist within a single environment, triggered by social movements or new technologies. The existence of multiple institutional logics can create conflict or contradictions that become motivating forces for change. The second change mechanism is institutional entrepreneurship. Here, an internal actor initiates some novelty in response to some exogenous shock, like a change in regulation, social movements, or technologies. The third change mechanism is a shifting demand landscape, where a change in consumer preference causes a field-level disruption. And finally, the last change mechanism is based on a change in ecosystems that are nested in fields at higher levels. The change at lower levels moves up the hierarchy, causing changes at higher field level. At the organizational level, three change mechanisms have been identified. The first is a change mechanism based on a firm's dynamic capabilities and managerial cognition. How managers perceive the sensing, seizing, and reconfiguring process of capability reconfiguration will shape the behavior of firms when the environment changes in a discontinuous manner. The second change mechanism is exaptation, where an innovation designed for one purpose is co-opted for a totally different use. Researchers have asserted that despite many, many examples of exaptation, it was under-recognized until it was explicitly identified as a separate change mechanism. Finally, the third change mechanism is effectuation or bricolage. We discussed effectuation back in Chapter 6 as an extremely useful method for adapting to highly uncertain environments. Both effectuation and bricolage relate to how decisions are made when environments are complicated, endogenous, subjective, and contested. Across multiple levels of analysis, connecting organizations with fields and fields with organizations, there are three change mechanisms identified: diffusion, self-organization, and field configuring events. Research into the first of these mechanisms, diffusion, shows how changes to a single organization can be adopted by other organizations, resulting in changes trickling up to the field level. Also, and more traditionally, changes at the field level, such as regulatory shifts, will result in changes to communities, populations, and ultimately individual organizations. The second, self-organization, recognizes how complex social systems react when passing through environmental turning points and thresholds. Finally, the third change mechanism, field configuring events, or FCEs, recognize the importance of conferences, contests, ceremonies, and other events that are short in duration, assemble many different communities together, allow for unstructured interactions, include theatrical or ceremonial events, and a bunch of other things. The authors believe there are 5 reasons why first-order change at the organizational level has dominated research in this field, and why there's been a dearth of research into discontinuous change at the field level. The first reason is nebulous concepts and cross-level disorientation, especially due to the lack of the definition of the term disruption. The second reason is because of academic silos and echo chambers. Unsurprisingly, the natural tendency to focus on our work results in blind spots that could be enlightened by investigating what other academic fields are finding in similar lines of research. The third reason for a lack of research in this area is due to adaptionist assumptions that we can identify multiple traits of an organization's behavior and then research each one individually without maintaining a holistic perspective, and still hope to arrive at meaningful findings despite having analytically amputated the subject in the name of simplicity. The fourth reason is based on equilibrium assumptions based on Newtonian physics and adopted by economists and other social scientists. The last reason for a lack of research into discontinuous change at the field level of analysis is because social scientists are mired in general linear reality based on general linear models of social behavior, which leads to the avoidance of asking hard questions about social systems. Finally, the authors recommend 5 research directions in this topic. The first is to precisely specify social mechanisms of change to improve the quality of explanation in research. The second is to substitute process theorizing for variance theorizing, if for no other reason than variance research cannot describe cause, processes, or consequences of discontinuous change. The third research direction is to build multi-level theories of discontinuous change to emphasize the time-dependent and cross-level implications of change. The fourth new direction is to incorporate nonlinear concepts to better embody the complexity and reality of social systems. Finally, the last suggestion is to investigate exaptation more thoroughly because it has been neglected due to not being explicitly recognized as a mechanism of change. Well, that does it for chapter 16 of the handbook, and I hope you enjoyed it. I know there's a lot here, but I hope that this was an enjoyable chapter for you. And if you enjoyed it, please consider hitting the subscribe button or notification bell so that you won't miss another video as they are released. Thanks. OT in Space was produced by IRL, which stands for Impossible Research LLC. IRL conducts process research on the topics of innovation and industry emergence within the space sector context. IRL also offers services of organization theory consulting, research consulting, and STEAM outreach. This video is intended for educational purposes only.